Here we go. In this video, we're going to take a look and see how I build a totally sealed carbon fiber Kevlar floorboard for my Bearhawk 4-place. What better place to start than by looking at the plug? Oh, I figured that'd be a little better. So I started off by just adding, these are 20 gauge or 22 gauge sheets of steel just to get the shape of the floor that I needed. And I literally, in some places, I've nailed the steel to the frame. And I did that this way so that I'd avoid doing any welding onto the structure. I did not want to weld onto the structure whatsoever. So I managed to avoid that. In other cases, I've zip tied. Let's see. So welded a nail and then zip tied it to the frame to kind of pull that in a little bit. And that worked out quite well. On top of the steel, I used mostly a total boat fairing compound, which worked much better than Bondo, but is a lot more expensive. Fortunately, I had that left over from a boat repair job. Let's see, I added these guards. Those were made out of wood. They're aligned with where the cables are supposed to go. I'm hoping I got that right. I did run a string across there. So the idea is that'll guard the cable a little bit from your feet. In the center, on the later kits, the center console here, on the later kits, the flap handle is much higher. And this, I guess you can call it a center console, will cover most of the mechanism there. And I'll do a cutout and make this piece removable so that you can get in there. And I don't know, we'll see, maybe I could put some pens or flashlights in there. I also did some kind of bump ups, or I accommodated where the yoke is supposed to mount to, because I really don't want to sandwich the yoke between the floorboard there. This took me about 4 weeks to do. It was incredibly hard to work around the frame. And so I was really eager to get it out and do as much work on the mold as I could. You can kind of see the frame does obstruct some of the areas here. And because I want the floorboard to kind of come as close as possible to the frame there, I did have to come in after the fact and close that off. This will give me space for the consumables, so gum tape and everything. And I still got a repair that I'm doing right there. So a little bit of work still to be done. But this thing, after quite a bit of filling work with gel coat mixed with silica, which, you know, I sprayed on top of and then sanded back down and exposed some of those areas. These could give me a problem, but this one is so small and that one is so close to where I need a wedge to, I think I'll be okay. So anyway, 6 weeks or so of work, and I think I'm ready to do, make a part, which will take maybe 2 days. And then I can make more parts if I ever need to. So without further ado, let's get to cutting up carbon and making a part. Look at that, act natural, don't I?
I was trying to do the beat in.
All right, let's see. I'm doing templates, doing my first layer of carbon and Kevlar. I'm getting the fiberglass veil tacked down with my 3M tack down adhesive. And that is to keep all of the fibers dead straight, locked in. And then I'll trace out the template and cut her up. There it is. Got all the templating done. Time to put on layer number 2, foam reinforcement, layer number 3, bag it, vacuum it, go from there. Okay, so if we look underneath the floorboard, we've got quite a big gap in this area where our feet are mostly going to be, and then some smaller gaps, 4 other smaller gaps. I'd like to keep the carbon as thin as I can, so I'm going to shoot for 3, maybe 4 layers. Based off the work I did in the rear bulkhead, 5 is too many. Even for a floorboard. And so I think if I can get some foam board kind of mixed into the carbon fiber layup in these areas, that'll add, the stiffness I need to keep it from droning and allow me to, put my feet on it, not have it flex too much. Well, it was nice to have some help out here in the workshop, but I have lost all of my helpers. We got a lot of work done. Got all of the carbon fiber laid up. I've got the cosmetic Kevlar carbon layer. I've got 1 layer of straight up carbon. We put the foam in, then we put another layer of carbon fiber, so that's 3 layers, which is as thin as I'm willing to go. Did an amazing job getting the peel ply on this thing. It was almost essential having all that help I did. I've got a few more things to do. I've got flow media that's got to go on, vacuum tubes got to go on. I've got to get the gum tape around the perimeter, get a bag on this thing, get the infusion going, and hopefully I can pop a part off this thing tomorrow. So here we go. All right, I'm gonna interrupt the time lapse real quick. It's going pretty good so far. I've tried something new here. One of my last parts, these areas came out pretty bad, and then the plastic actually pierced the bag, the flow media. So I'm gonna see if those fill in. That's interesting. My degassing setup failed miserably. The bucket collapsed in on itself, so the resin is gonna be full of air. So I'll have another part full of air until I get a new system to degas the resin. But there it is in real time. And you can just kind of see how slow it goes. All right, back to the time lapse. All right, it is still going good. I have just dumped the third 18-ounce cup of resin in there. Let me show you the setup a little bit. So, we've got my resin infusion area. I put a little T-fitting in here. I've got swirled lines to let the resin kind of infuse up in that area. I got a neat little line valve in there. So once it reaches the end, I can close that up. I can also use that to throttle the resin, get a nice slow flow through everything there. On the vacuum side, we got a little cheapo rotary vane vacuum pump, submerged in oil. So that's oil fumes coming out of there. And then this is just quick and dirty with another swirled vacuum line kind of all the way across. And you can see where I put the resin brake in. So the flow media will allow the resin to kind of move through it. And then the brake right here will let everything catch up. And then that way the resin kind of finds itself at the vacuum line all at once. Most of this gets cut off anyway, the final part. So even if the resin doesn't get all the way in, not a big deal. Doing the corners this way was a good call. Right, those all filled in, turned out pretty good. Got a few more that are coming in. And she is moving, but really slow. You may have noticed when I put the foam in that I have drilled holes on 1.5-inch spacing, and that's to allow the resin to kind of infuse down and infuse up. So as it climbs through that foam piece, the resin can get all around the carbon there. Let's see, so back to the time lapse. All right, well, that's about it. She is mostly done. I've got this one corner here that I'm hoping overnight it'll kind of creep into. I should have brought the flow media a little closer there. Some of that gets cut, but it's like right in the line. So I'm pretty confident that'll fix itself. There are no leaks in the bag. I've checked everywhere, so I'm gonna clamp this guy off, put my heat blanket on. I'm getting a fire going because it is 61 degrees in here. So we'll get the heat up, put a blanket on it. I'll set up my heater underneath. It'll get about to 120, 140. I should probably get a better heat oven, but that's all I got right now. And man, that's a long time coming. It's a lot of work to get to this stage, so I'm super excited. And I'll pop it off tomorrow. Right on. Well, I'll have to say that is fully infused. Look at that. Just crept in. That just made it. Awesome. The bag held tight. All right. Yes. That took about 2 hours almost to get all that off. And now, for the moment I've been waiting for a long time, we're going to pull this guy out of here, if I can get it out. All right, again, that's the spot I was really worried about. So, ooh, comes right off of it. This is going to work out perfect. Boom, just like that. Holy cow. Wow. Nothing to it. What? Holy cow, that's blue. There it is, needs a good buff. There's the spot, the rough spot. Got quite a bit of buffing to do. So cool. Some trimming, some buffing, and I got to take the plug out so that I can put it in. All right, guys, well, that is what is left of the plug, and that is the floor installed. And I'm going to tell you what, this thing fits better than I could have imagined. So I got a lip in here for the rudder pedal assembly. The brake master cylinders, enough space for the lines on the bottom. I've buffed the bottom, I haven't buffed the sides yet. Did a little bit of trimming just to get it in there. Well, there's the bottom. All my reinforcements fell right where I wanted them to, so that's a big win on my end. Really happy with that. Let's see, you can kind of see inside where the flap handle will go. The control stick assembly foundation cutouts, I haven't done those yet. I keep calling that a yoke. But yeah, so once I cut these out, this panel should slip down just a little bit and close the gap on all the tubes. So I'm amazed by that because the panel conforms to the floor, which isn't perfect, obviously. This tube is larger in diameter than these, so it has to go up and over a little bit. But blown away with how well that fits. Let's bring her down a little bit. All right, guys, let's have a look at some of the features I've designed into this floor. Obviously, my biggest justification for putting in the extra time to get this floor done was to seal up the floor space as much as I could. And ironically, recently on the Bearhawk forums, there was a thread started about sealing up the floor. And in one of the responses, a guy talked about how all the sand had gotten in between the stringers and the fabric and could have potentially worn through the fabric there. I've worked on plenty of small planes and some big ships, and the belly of aircraft and the bilges of ships are where everything goes to die. And so any grit, sand, debris, gravel, whatever, will always collect at the lowest point. And my objective here is to kind of create the WeatherTech option for the Bearhawk aircraft. One of the neat things about the fuel line that I didn't address earlier was that by putting these guards in for the cable, it'll also allow me to move the fuel line down below without having to create a hole in the floor that would otherwise allow debris to get by. So for this video, I think I'm going to end it right here. And in the next video, I'll go over some of the trimming that I'm going to have to do to fit the rudder pedals and the control stick assembly. And we'll see how, and probably also the fuel valve, we'll see how well I can kind of maintain that sealed goal, because obviously I'm going to have some cutouts. But anyway, here it is, all done. And we'll finish it up on the next one.